Hi, welcome to CEO Meets. My name is Pip Wilkins. I am the Chief Executive at the British Franchise Association, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Amrit from Walfinch today. So Amrit, first of all, why don't you introduce yourself and talk to us a bit about Walfinch and what you do?
Great. Well, hi, I'm Amrit Dhaliwal, the CEO of Walfinch. We're a franchise organization. We provide home care services to older people. We can provide care to anyone over the age of 18, but largely our work consists around older adults. Effectively, we do a lot of work in mental health and dementia, and do anything from 1 hour a week to live-in care.
Fantastic. So how long have you been trading? When did you start the business, and kind of what was the thinking behind starting it?
I mean, it's an interesting story, really. I wasn't from the industry at all. I've had various other businesses, and I've almost always been self-employed. I think I worked for someone for about 8 months after leaving university before I realized it wasn't for me. And I went off, and I actually was looking at franchises myself, many moons ago. And I was a franchisee in home care, and I learned a lot. But I realized early on that the market hadn't really changed in home care in the UK for the last sort of 20 odd years. And there's a very different type of franchisee that's coming into the market now. And also, the systems and so on have kind of moved forward. And so I sort of set off a few years ago thinking, right, hold on a second, we can, learn everything I can learn and then go and build a new product myself for enthusiastic franchisees. My ethos around kind of running a business is that a business should work for you and not the other way around, and you should be able to use one of these and run most of the thing. And so I've focused a lot on automation and setting up systems that allow you to operate the business from anywhere, which has helped tremendously through COVID, and allowed us to kind of sort of keep building even while we're in lockdown and have all the various restrictions.
Yeah, I think the speed of digitalization has been massive in the last 2 years, with businesses really changing the way that they do things. So is that what kind of sets you apart from the other kind of home care franchises?
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple of different things, really. I mean, my thoughts are always around, number one, it's around the level and quantity and quality of support that you get. And so having been a franchisee myself, I really understand that actually fundamentally, put everything else aside, that is the thing that, you need when in that first year, 2 years, when you're getting started. You want someone as a franchisor that is energetic enough, that wants to kind of come and help and is always there to support. So we've put a really a rigid support structure around. And so it's very quantifiable and helps people get from zero to their kind of revenue goals in a relatively short space of time. I think that's a really fundamental difference, but certainly the automation and the digitalization of what we've done, I think is also really interesting, because we've hit the ground running as a paperless organization. And so being paperless and automated as much as we can, and sort of connecting all of our systems together to allow it to sort of run and operate. So I'd probably say that those are two of the kind of key things from a business point of view, but from a sort of values and ethos perspective, I sort of feel, for me, the industry is always talking about the recruits and the lack of recruitment and the issues around recruitment. But for me, and for Walfinch as an organization, our focus is truly around retention of staff. Understanding that we're recruiting the right type of carers, we're developing the right type of carers, and we're trying to get longevity out of staff. I take it extremely personally if a carer wants to leave, and certainly if they're leaving to go to someone else within the industry, because it's all about sort of putting the care staff at the center of the conversation and really helping them blossom.
Okay, so that's been a real theme, certainly over the last 2 years, where I suppose employees look very differently now at work-life balance, and that their values are aligned to a business. How do you ensure then that your franchisees are really instilling the values and that kind of culture to ensure that staff retention remains high?
So we do a lot of feedback work, and we speak to, we pick up the phone and have conversations with carers and clients, across the country, and ask the question, because I think that's really the best way to find out whether it's happening. And also you get a real sort of sense of it when you go and see franchisees and you're sort of spending the time. And we build very personal relationships with our franchisees, because I think, franchising is an extremely personal sort of industry, and you see it all. You see the wonderful days, but then you also see the days where it's extremely difficult, and you're there for the whole thing. So I think the key thing for me is getting feedback, but also it's really around asking the right questions, and allowing then the systems to kind of help with that. So our rostering systems will sort of block times that staff are absolutely unable to sort of come out. If Sarah has to go to watch little Timmy play football every Wednesday afternoon, we can block that on the system and ensure that happens. So said carer is available. We're not consistently asking them the same question, which upsets people.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me then about your franchisees. What are the key attributes you're looking for in someone to be a Walfinch franchisee?
It's a really good question, actually, Pip. Again, having been a franchisee myself and not, always being from a care background, I really believe that you don't have to have any industry knowledge. That's what we're here for. We're very good on our support, and we have a really robust system around that. So we can teach people the bit around care. We can teach them business and the business systems. The thing that we can't teach people, and the thing that I really look for, is grit. And that's for me the fundamental thing, because when you have those dark days, and we all have them, it's about then putting a smile on and pressing forward, and it's those days that really kind of build your character and show us where you are. And so what I'm looking for in franchisees are people that can persevere and take the knockbacks and keep going, and I think everything else we can teach them.
That's a brilliant actual thing to look for. A lot of people say passion, so it's nice to hear a different word for almost the same thing, but it's that determination to succeed.
Absolutely.
What are your big goals? So, we've come out the back of a pandemic. It's been a busy time for care generally, but what's the kind of goals for you during the course of 2022 and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I find the whole thing extremely exciting, and I'm sure you hear that all the time, but I truly do, because when I'm speaking to franchisees, I mean, the thing that I always say is that I'm at the beginning of my career too, and I'm sort of looking ahead and saying, well, how does it look in 20 years, 30 years time? And my long-term goal for Walfinch is 200 branches around the country, 200 million pounds in revenue, and then beyond. But in the immediate future, what that means for us is that our whole process is around building quality structure, quality support, ensuring that our franchisees are beating industry averages. And so we're finding that our year 2 franchisees are, sort of turning over more revenue than what the industry would expect. And we're getting a lot of them up to the £500,000 mark and so on, which is really exciting. And I think sort of finessing that in 2022, and getting back out and meeting our franchisees and spending the time with them in person, rolling our sleeves up and getting stuck in. And in terms of actual the sort of incoming franchisees, we look to grow by about 10 branches a year, and I think that's quite sustainable and sensible. We say no a lot as well, so it's trying to find people that sort of synergize with our values. So that's it in a very long snapshot.
I think your smiley personality is really contagious. I have one final question for you. I ask everybody, it's what would be your top tip when someone's looking to buy into a franchise, from a due diligence perspective? What's the key thing you tell them to do?
I think franchising is all hearts and minds. And for me, I having been a franchisee myself, I think really there's two things that I would look for. One is the quantity of support that you get, and really trying to understand what the support actually looks like in your first year, 18 months, because that's sort of crucial.
When you need it the most.
Absolutely. But two, and possibly more importantly, I think it's, do you have chemistry with the franchisor? Can you pick up the phone on a Friday night and say, I've got a huge issue, can you please help me? And expect that they will be there for you. And I think, it's that chemistry is probably quite understated. I think that's possibly the most important thing. Everything else, is there, isn't it? You've got an operations manual, you've got, certainly in our industry, you've got all the red tape that tells you what you can and can't do. But, it's about knowing that the people on the other side of that phone are sort of the right people for you as a person. So
that's a top piece of advice. Thank you so much. It's been really lovely talking to you. And as I said, your passion is absolutely evident.
Well, thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure speaking to you too.